Cream were a 1960s British rock supergroup power trio consisting of bassist-singer Jack Bruce, drummer Ginger Baker, and guitarist-singer Eric Clapton. Their sound was characterized by a hybrid of blues rock, hard rock and psychedelic rock, combining psychedelia-themed lyrics, Eric Clapton's blues guitar playing, Jack Bruce's operatic voice and prominent bass playing and Ginger Baker's jazz-influenced drumming. The group's third album, Wheels of Fire, was the world's first platinum-selling double album. Cream are widely regarded as being the world's first successful supergroup. In their career, they sold over 15 million albums worldwide. Cream's music included songs based on traditional blues such as Crossroads and Spoonful, and modern blues such as Born Under a Bad Sign, as well as more eccentric songs such as Strange Brew, Tales of Brave Ulysses, and Toad. Cream's biggest hits were I Feel Free, Sunshine of Your Love, White Room, Crossroads, and Badge. Cream made a significant impact on the popular music of the time, and, along with Jimi Hendrix and Terry Kath of Chicago, popularized the use of the wah-wah pedal. They provided a heavy yet technically proficient musical theme that foreshadowed and influenced the emergence of British bands such as Led Zeppelin, the Jeff Beck Group and Black Sabbath in the late 1960s and the early 1970s. The band's live performances influenced progressive rock acts such as Rush. Cream were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1993. They were included in both Rolling Stone and VH1's lists of the 100 greatest artists of all time, at number 67 and 61 respectively. They were also ranked number 16 on VH1's 100 Greatest Artists of Hard Rock. Formation, 1966. By July 1966, Eric Clapton's career with the Yardbirds and John Mayall and the Blues Breakers had earned him a reputation as the premier blues guitarist in Britain. Clapton, however, found the environment of Mayall's band confining, and sought to expand his playing in a new band. In 1966, Clapton met Ginger Baker, then the leader of the Graham Bond Organization, which at one point featured Jack Bruce on bass guitar, harmonica and piano. Baker felt stifled in the Graham Bond Organization and had grown tired of Graham Bond's drug addictions and bouts of mental instability. "I had always liked Ginger," explained Clapton. "Ginger had come to see me play with the Blues Breakers. After the gig he drove me back to London in his Rover. I was very impressed with his car and driving. He was telling me that he wanted to start a band, and I had been thinking about it too." Each was impressed with the other's playing abilities, prompting Baker to ask Clapton to join his new, then unnamed group. Clapton immediately agreed, on the condition that Baker hire Bruce as the group's bassist. According to Clapton, Baker was so surprised at the suggestion that he almost crashed the car. Clapton had met Bruce when the bassist-vocalist briefly played with the Blues Breakers in November 1965. The two also had worked together as part of a one-shot band called Powerhouse. Impressed with Bruce's vocals and technical prowess, Clapton wanted to work with him on an ongoing basis. In contrast, while Bruce was in Bond's band, he and Baker had been notorious for their quarreling. Their volatile relationship included on-stage fights and the sabotage of one another's instruments. After Baker fired Bruce from the band, Bruce continued to arrive for gigs. Ultimately, Bruce was driven away from the band after Baker threatened him at knife point. Baker and Bruce put aside of their differences for the good of Baker's new trio, which he envisioned as collaborative, with each of the members contributing to music and lyrics. The band was named Cream, as Clapton, Bruce, and Baker were already considered the cream of the crop amongst blues and jazz musicians in the exploding British music scene. Initially, the group were referred to and billed as the Cream, but starting officially with its first record releases, the trio would be plain Cream. Before deciding upon Cream, the band considered calling themselves Sweet and Sour Rock and Roll. Of the trio, Clapton had the biggest reputation in England. However, he was all but unknown in the United States, having left the Yardbirds before For Your Love hit the American Top 10. Cream made its unofficial debut at the Twisted Will on July 29, 1966. Its official debut came 2 nights later at the 6th Annual Windsor Jazz and Blues Festival. Being new and with few original songs to its credit, Cream performed blues reworkings that thrilled the large crowd and earned it a warm reception. In October the band also got a chance to jam with Jimi Hendrix, who had recently arrived in London. Hendrix was a fan of Clapton's music, and wanted a chance to play with him on stage. Hendrix was introduced to Cream through Chas Chandler, Hendrix's manager. It was during the early organization that they decided Bruce would serve as the group's lead vocalist. While Clapton was shy about singing, he occasionally harmonized with Bruce and, in time, took lead vocals on several Cream tracks including For Until Late, Strange Brew, World of Pain, Outside Woman Blues, Anyone for Tennis, Crossroads, and Badge. Fresh Cream, 1966, Cream's debut album, Fresh Cream, was recorded and released in 1966. The album reached number 6 in the UK charts and number 39 in the United States. It was evenly split between self-penned originals and blues covers, including For Until Late, Rollin' and Tumblin', Spoonful, I'm So Glad, and Cat's Squirrel. The rest of the songs were written by either Jack Bruce or Ginger Baker. The track Toad contained one of the earliest examples of a drum solo in rock music as Ginger Baker expanded upon his early composition Camels and Elephants, written in 1965 with the Graham Bond Organization. The early Cream bootlegs display a much tighter band showcasing more songs. All of the songs are reasonably short 5-minute versions of NSU, Sweet Wine, and Toad. But a mere 2 months later, the setlist shortened, with the songs then much longer. Disraeli Gears, 1967, Cream first visited the United States in March 1967 to play 9 dates at the RKO Theatre in New York. There was little impact, as impresario Murray the K placed them at the bottom of a 6-act bill that performed 5 times per date, eventually reducing Cream to 1 song per concert. They returned to record Disraeli Gears in New York between May 11 and May 15, 1967. Cream's second album was released in November 1967 and reached a top 5 in the charts on both sides of the Atlantic. Produced by Felix Papaladi and engineered Tom Dowd, it was recorded at Atlantic Studios in New York. Disraeli Gears is often considered to be the band's defining effort, successfully blending psychedelic British rock with American blues. Disraeli Gears not only features hits Strange Brew, and Tales of Brave Ulysses, but also Sunshine of Your Love. The album was originally slated for release in the summer of 1967, but the record label opted to scrap the planned cover and repackage it with a new psychedelic cover, designed by artist Martin Sharp, and the resulting changes delayed its release for several months. The album was remarkable for the time, with a psychedelic design patterned over a publicity photo of the trio. Although the album is considered one of Cream's finest efforts, it has never been well represented in Cream's live sets. Although they consistently played Tales of Brave Ulysses, and Sunshine of Your Love, several songs from Disraeli Gears were quickly dropped from performances in mid-1967, favoring longer jams instead of short pop songs. We're Going Wrong was the only additional song from the album the group performed live. In fact, at their 2005 reunion shows in London, Cream played only 3 songs from Disraeli Gears, Outside Woman Blues, We're Going Wrong, and Sunshine of Your Love. In August 1967, Cream played their first headlining dates in America, playing first at the Fillmore West in San Francisco and later at the Pinnacle in Los Angeles. The concerts were a great success and proved very influential on both the band itself and the flourishing hippie scene surrounding them. Upon discovering a growing listening audience, the band began to stretch out on stage, incorporating more time in their repertoire, some songs reaching jams of 20 minutes. Long drawn-out jams in numbers like Spoonful, NSU, I'm So Glad, and Sweet Wine became live favorites, while songs like Sunshine of Your Love, Crossroads, and Tales of Brave Ulysses remained reasonably short. Wheels of Fire, 1968. In 1968 came Cream's third release, Wheels of Fire, which topped the American charts. Still a relative novelty, the double album of 2 LP discs was well suited to extended solos. Wheels of Fire studio recordings showcased Cream moving slightly away from the blues and more towards a semi-progressive rock style highlighted by odd time signatures and various orchestral instruments. However, the band did record Howlin' Wolf Sitting on Top of the World, and Albert King's Born Under a Bad Sign. According to a BBC interview with Clapton, the record company, also handling Albert King, asked the band to cover Born Under a Bad Sign, which became a popular track off the record. The opening song, White Room, became a radio staple. Another song, Politician, was written by the band while waiting to perform live at the BBC. The album's second disc featured 3 live recordings from the Winterland Ballroom and 1 from the Fillmore. Eric Clapton's second solo from Crossroads has made it to the top 20 in multiple greatest guitar solo lists. After the completion of Wheels of Fire in mid-1968, the band members had had enough and wanted to go their separate ways. Baker stated in a 2006 interview with Music Mart magazine, "It just got to the point where Eric said to me, 'I've had enough of this,' and I said so have I couldn't stand it. The last year with Cream was just agony. It damaged my hearing permanently, and today I've still got a hearing problem because of the sheer volume throughout the last year of Cream. But it didn't start off like that. In 1966, it was great. It was really a wonderful experience musically, and it just went into the realms of stupidity." Bruce and Baker's combustible relationship proved even worse as a result of the strain put upon the band by non-stop touring, forcing Clapton to play the perpetual role of peacekeeper. Clapton had also fallen under the spell of Bob Dylan's former backing group, now known as The Band, and their debut album, Music from Big Pink, which proved to be a welcome breath of fresh air in comparison to the incense and psychedelia that had formed Cream. Furthermore, he had read a scathing Cream review in Rolling Stone, a publication he had much admired, in which the reviewer, John Landau, called him a master of the blues cliché copyright. In the wake of that article, Clapton wanted to end Cream and pursue a different musical direction. At the beginning of their farewell tour on October 4, 1968, in Oakland, nearly the entire set consisted of songs from Wheels of Fire, White Room, Politician, Crossroads, Spoonful, Deserted Cities of the Heart, and Passing the Time, taking the place of Toad for a drum solo. Passing the Time and Deserted Cities were quickly removed from the setlist and replaced by Sitting on Top of the World and Toad. Goodbye, 1968–1969. Cream were eventually persuaded to do one final album. That album, the appropriately titled Goodbye, was recorded in late 1968 and released in early 1969, after the band had broken up. It featured 6 songs, 3 live recordings dating from a concert at the Forum in Los Angeles, California, on October 19, and 3 new studio recordings. I'm So Glad was included among the live tracks. Cream's farewell tour consisted of 22 shows at 19 venues in the United States between October 4 and November 4, 1968, and 2 final farewell concerts at the Royal Albert Hall on November 26, 1968. Initially another double album was planned, comprising live material from this tour plus new studio tracks, but a single album, Goodbye, was released instead with 3 live tracks taken from their performance at the Forum in Los Angeles on October 19, 1968, and 3 studio tracks, 1 written by each of the band members. The final U.S. gig was at the Rhode Island Auditorium, November 4, 1968. The band arrived late and, due to local restrictions, they were able to perform only 2 songs, Toad, and a 20-plus minute version of Spoonful. The 2 Royal Albert Hall concerts were filmed for a BBC documentary and released on video as farewell concert. Both shows were sold out and attracted more attention than any other Cream concert, but their performance was regarded by many as below standard. Baker himself said of the concerts, "It wasn't a good gigger. Cream was better than theatre. We knew it was all over. We knew we were just finishing it off, getting it over with." In an interview from Cream, Classic Artists, he added that the band was getting worse by the minute. Cream's supporting acts were Taste and the newly formed Yes, who received good reviews. 3 performances early in Cream's farewell tour were opened by Deep Purple. Deep Purple had originally agreed to open the entire US leg of the tour, but Cream's management removed them after only 3 shows, in spite of favorable reviews and good rapport between the bands. Breakup, 1968. From its creation, Cream was faced with some fundamental problems that would later lead to its dissolution in November 1968. The rivalry between Bruce and Baker created tensions in the band. Clapton also felt that the members of the band did not listen to each other enough. Equipment during these years had also improved. New Marshall amplifier stacks produced more power, and Jack Bruce pushed the volume levels higher, creating tension for Baker, who would have trouble competing with roaring stacks. Clapton spoke of a concert during which he stopped playing and neither Baker nor Bruce noticed. Clapton has also commented that Cream's later gigs mainly consisted of its members showing off. Cream decided that they would break up in May 1968 during a tour of the U.S. Later, in July, an official announcement was made that the band would break up after a farewell tour of the United States and after playing 2 concerts in London. Cream finished their tour of the United States with a November 4 concert in Rhode Island and performed in the UK for the last time in London on 25 and 26 November. Bruce had 3 Marshall stacks on stage for the farewell shows, but one acted only as a spare, and he only used 1 or 2, depending on the song. Post-Cream. Blind Faith was formed immediately after the demise of Cream, following an attempt by Clapton to recruit Steve Winwood into Cream in the hope that he would help act as a buffer between Bruce and Baker. Inspired by more song-based acts, Clapton went on to perform much different, less improvisational material with Delaney and Bonnie, Derek and the Dominoes, and in his own long and varied solo career. Bruce began a varied and successful solo career with the 1969 release of Songs for a Tailor, while Baker formed a jazz fusion ensemble out of the ashes of Blind Faith called Ginger Baker's Air Force, which featured Winwood, Blind Faith bassist Rick Grich, Graham Bond on sax, and guitarist Denny Lane of the Moody Blues and Wings. All 3 members continued to explore new musical ideas and partnerships, played concerts and record music for over 4 decades after ending Cream. Reunions. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. In 1993, Cream were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and reformed to perform at the induction ceremony. Initially, the trio were wary about performing, until encouraging words from Robbie Robertson inspired them to try. The set consisted of Sunshine of Your Love, Crossroads, and Born Under a Bad Sign, a song they had not previously played live. Clapton mentioned in his acceptance speech that their rehearsal the day before the ceremony had marked the first time they had played together in 25 years. This performance spurred rumors of a reunion tour. Bruce and Baker said in later interviews that they were, indeed, interested in touring as Cream. A formal reunion did not take place immediately, as Clapton, Bruce and Baker continued to pursue solo projects, although the latter 2 worked together again in the mid-1990s as 2/3 of a power trio BBM with Irish blues rock guitarist Gary Moore. 2005 Royal Albert Hall and Madison Square Garden concerts, Cream reunited for a series of 4 shows, on 2nd, 3rd, 5th and 6th May 2005 at the Royal Albert Hall in London, the venue of their final concerts in 1968, at Clapton's request. Although the 3 musicians chose not to speak publicly about the shows, Clapton would later state that he had become more generous in regard to his past, and that the physical health of Bruce and Baker was a major factor. Bruce had recently undergone a liver transplant for liver cancer, and had almost lost his life, while Baker had severe arthritis. Tickets for all 4 shows sold out in under an hour. The performances were recorded for a live CD and DVD. Among those in attendance were Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr, Steve Winwood, Roger Waters, Brian May, Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin, and also Mick Taylor and Bill Wyman. The reunion marked the first time the band had played Badge, and Pressed Rat and Warthog live. The Royal Albert Hall reunion proved a success on both a personal and financial level, inspiring the reformed band to bring their reunion to the United States. Cream chose to play at only one venue, Madison Square Garden in New York City, from 24 October 26, 2005. 2006 Present, In February 2006, Cream received a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award in recognition of their contribution to, and influence upon, modern music. That same month, a classic albums DVD was released detailing the story behind the creation and recording of Disraeli Gears. On the day prior to the Grammy ceremony, Bruce made a public statement that more one-off performances of Cream had been planned, multiple dates in a few cities, similar to the Royal Albert Hall and Madison Square Garden shows. However, this story was refuted by both Clapton and Baker, first by Clapton in a Times article from April 2006. The article stated that when asked about Cream, Clapton said, "No, and not for me. We did it and it was fun. But life is too short. I've got lots of other things I would rather do, including staying at home with my kids." The thing about that band was that it was all to do with its limelight, sir. It was an experiment. In an interview in the UK magazine Music Mart, about the release of a DVD about the Blind Faith concert in Hyde Park 1969, Baker commented about his unwillingness to continue the Cream reunion. These comments were far more specific and explosive than Clapton's, as they were centered around his relationship with Jack Bruce. Ginger said, "When he's Dr. Jekyll, he's funny. It's when he's Mr. Hyde that he's not. And I'm afraid he's still the same. I tell you this there won't ever be any more Cream gigs, because he did Mr. Hyde in New York last year." When asked to elaborate, Baker replied, "Oh, he shouted at me on stage, he turned his bass up so loud that he deafened me on the first gig. What he does is that he apologizes and apologizes, but I'm afraid, to do it on a Cream reunion gig, that was the end. He killed the magic, and New York was like 1968. It was just a get through the gig, get the money sort of deal. I was absolutely amazed. I mean, he demonstrated why he got the sack from Graham Bond and why Cream didn't last very long on stage in New York. I didn't want to do it in the first place simply because of how Jack was. I have worked with him several times since Cream, and I promised myself that I would never work with him again. When Eric first came up with the idea, I said no, and then he phoned me up and eventually convinced me to do it. I was on my best behavior and I did everything I could to make things go as smooth as possible, and I was really pleasant to Jack." Ginger Baker and Jack Bruce would reunite on stage in London when Baker was awarded a Lifetime Achievement Award by Zildjian. Jack Bruce told Detroit's WCSX radio station in May 2007 that there were plans for a Cream reunion later in the year. It was later revealed that the potential performance was to be November 2007 London as a tribute to Ahmet Ertegun 1/4N. The band decided against it and this was confirmed by Bruce in a letter to the editor of the Jack Bruce fanzine, the Quicoland Express, dated September 26, 2007. The headlining act for the O2 Arena Ertegun tribute show turned out to be another reunited English hard rock act, Led Zeppelin. In an interview with BBC Six Music in April 2010, Bruce confirmed that there would be no more Cream shows. He said, "Cream is over." Discography: Fresh Cream, Disraeli Gears, Wheels of Fire, Goodbye. References. External links: Eric Clapton official website, Jack Bruce official website, Ginger Baker official website, The Cream story from the official Ginger Baker archive, Cream interviewed on the Pop Chronicles, discography.